So with the recording, if anyone needs to see that later, like Kristen, she can do that. Let's see.
I don't know if anybody else saw the classrooms yet. I went and visited them last week, now that I have my COVID negative test.
I did. I went Monday.
I went from the new business building, which is incredible,
Oh,
to
yeah.
Daniel Hall, which is on the other end of the spectrum. And now
Tell
I know
us
what
about
Tanya
the
was
new
talking about last
building.
year with the ants. There's ants that come in Daniel Hall. They go down through the room, around the corner, and into a TA's room. But anyways, I'm hoping we stay home this semester. Now that we're recording this, I shouldn't have said that.
I don't see us going back to campus.
I mean, North Carolina just shut down. Notre
After a
Dame
week.
just shut down.
Yeah.
Did you hear about the headline on the student newspaper at Chapel Hill?
No.
I can't say it in polite company, but they basically had a headline that was like, well, this is a... So you have to look it up. It was in the Wall Street Journal, but
Yeah, I think
the students were calling
that.
themselves
I
on it.
that.
Yeah, but Duke is moving along. I mean, like with their luxurious, one per room thing, with this massive testing, it seems that Duke is pretty calm and moving along with their students. But
Yeah,
so it depends, actually.
Yeah.
Depends on the resources.
They seem to blame it all on the off-campus activities too.
Yeah.
Which I guess we'll find out about in the next week or two.
Bad decisions. All right. So Jennifer sent out minutes just a little bit ago. So you probably have not seen these. So I can scroll through these on the screen if you haven't seen those on in your email yet. So I'm just going to let you scan through these real quick so that we can take care of this. So this 4,500, 6,500 issue is on our list. I've had some additional conversation with Amelia today about medical terminology in general. So that's going to come up in several places.
Joel, had you initiated the drop for Health 4500 or did I initiate that one?
I did. Yeah,
okay.
I'll bring everybody back up to speed on that. This Health 4000 issue is on our list. The CEF issues with Becky, that's just an ongoing thing. We'll be hearing more about that over the semester. Catalog proof, we've done that. 8900 prereq, that and the 8310 prereq, those are on our to-do list. So does anybody see anything there they object to? All right, would anyone like to move that we accept the minutes as written?
I move we accept the minutes as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, so that passes. So first thing off the list already. Now, let's go through this list. There's a lot of stuff on here. What I would like to do today is to go through this as quickly as possible. So basically what we're doing in this meeting today is just getting back up to speed on all the things that we had talked about doing, that we knew we would be working on from last spring, and then a bunch of stuff came up this summer as well. Some of these things are very straightforward and easy, and really we don't need to talk about them much at all. And there's a few informational things on here, but there are also a few things that's going to require a little bit of work, or may already have people working on it. So we've kind of got a mix of things here. So my goal is to keep us moving through this list today. So if we get too far into the weeds, I'm going to pull us back, and we're gonna get through. But we'll definitely make notes about anything that we need to follow up on. And having said that too, I will not move ahead to something else if there's still additional brief discussion that we need to have before we move on. So if I'm urging us along or trying to prod us along, don't take that the wrong way, basically. All right, so the curriculum proposal for the deletion of Health 4500, 6500, I did this last spring. I have emails from the other programs that are affected by these deletions after I did the what if test that you do in Curriculog. All of that was put forward, and Jeff Appling denied this request, and he had a really strange rationale for why. And what I honestly think happened is I have seen how many things they deal with in one of the undergraduate curriculum meetings at the college, at the university level. And keep in mind that I've been to a graduate, I go to all the graduate level university curriculum meetings, and we have gone through 90 items in a meeting. That's not unusual. They do even more than that with undergrad, but I think it's the volume. I think he got our proposal mixed up with somebody else's. So it was so close to the end of the semester that Tracy and I just decided that it's not a big deal. It's not hurting anybody to have those classes there. We can just circle back and resubmit that. And we won't even mention that it's been on the agenda. Everything's cleaned off from last spring. So this will just look like a new item to him and the committee anyway, and it should get through with no problems. It should have gone through with no problems before, but again, you know, sometimes it's just too much extra work, right?
That's right.
Any questions about that one?
No.
All right. Next item is to discuss the certificate course addition or change at the beginning of the fall semester about adding medical terminology to the certificate. So this is something that we had talked about a little bit previously. I know that Ralph has done some work on this, and so has Amelia. So Ralph and Amelia, let's bring everybody up to speed on this. And then as you're talking, I'm just gonna make notes in here in terms of task and to-do items. So I'm just gonna turn it over to you, Ralph and Amelia, on this point number 2 here.
Amelia, do you want to go first, or?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Just to bring people up to speed, at the beginning of last year, and this was all kind of informal. I don't think this was ever officially put on our task list, but I was asked by Amelia to consider or look into getting medical terminology, our online course, added to the undergrad public health certificate program. The public health certificate program makes a lot of money. Something unique about it is because it serves non-majors, all that money, we get a lot of revenue that comes directly to our department. So from what I understood, and Amelia can clarify this more later, we also have, we make a lot of money off of the classes 2020, 2030, and EPI. Because we're teaching so many of the medical terminology classes, a thought was, well, let's get money off of that and either add that course to the certificate, replace a current course, or another option. So what I did last year is I met with a lot of people. I met with Amelia, Sarah, Rachel. I talked to Ron, and I talked to Dean Anderson as well about, you know, what are the issues, etc. And Joel, I could summarize my findings. I didn't do it for today, but I could put a summary list of where everything stands at for next month or get it to you. But in general, it sounds like from the feedback I've loosely got is that one of the proposals is we keep EPI because that's just an important course. We keep Intro to Public Health because that's what the certificate's about. But maybe we consider having 2030, the medical terminology class about systems, you know, medical systems, have that be, students take that one or the medical terminology class, like an option. I talked to curriculum. We loosely talked about that in curriculum. And there were some pros and cons to that. One was it didn't seem like it really fit with the nature of what the program was about, but it still would bring in a lot of revenue. I talked to Ron loosely about it, and his kind of knee jerk, and maybe I didn't fully explain it either. He was like, oh, it's a great way to make money to pay for salary. But there's also some concerns about how that would impact our program. And last year, almost all the undergrad certificate programs were removed from campus. And ours was actually on the line to be removed as well. But Ron met with the deans and they said because of its importance and the revenue we make off of it, ours was going to be spared. So that was something I was a little concerned also. I met with Dean Anderson and she looked into a couple things for me. One, she said that she didn't think our certificate was in jeopardy of going away. She said it was needed enough that we're probably set on that. She also looked into the process we would need to go through to get potentially a class switched out if we even want to do that. And she said it wouldn't be as complex as we think. It would just be making curricular changes on that. And I have some past emails I can summarize. But again, there was also some feedback from curriculum committee on, is this something we want to do? And one thing I didn't get around to doing last year is I didn't officially get Ron or somebody to put this on our task list. So a lot of what was done last year was just kind of gathering information, getting different viewpoints from people. And then with kind of us wrapping up, in the COVID world last year, and knowing that we didn't make decisions prior to when the course catalog was going to be changed, it kind of got pushed to, hey, we'll deal with this first thing this year. So I think that's generally kind of where we're at with that. So right now, I guess from where I'm coming from, and it'll be interesting to hear your other discussions, I think where we're at from my perspective is we need to figure out, is this something curriculum wants to discuss? Somebody would need to put that forward. Then I guess once we look at the issues, if we decide we do want to pass it, I guess that would go to the department potentially. But then if we do make the change, and again, there's a lot of pros and cons to making the change, it would be an easy process. It would just be a matter of us going into curriculog and saying what we want to do. And I think right now, pre-discussions, it seems like the proposal again I heard was, let's keep 2020, let's keep EPI, because those are just required for graduate schools, and then potentially, maybe have the healthcare systems course or the terminology course be an option. But as I said, there was some discussion on, is a terminology course really part of a public health, course? It's teaching about medical systems, public health systems, and, the power of epidemiology. So I think that's where we're at there. Amelia, do you have other comments, or does anybody else have other questions?
Yeah, I wanted to say a couple things about medical terminology. And just to back up, Rachel came to me and then I took it to Ralph as the certificate director. So it did trickle down from Rachel originally. And side note, medical terminology has its own set of concerns that Joel, if this is an okay time for me to roll this in.
Yes.
We offer this to anyone on campus, as most of you know. So most people who are going to medical school or some kind of professional school, I think it's a requirement for them. And so that's why they often want to take medical terminology. So we have a big demand for it. And Karen Edwards is one of our primary instructors for that class. I think Tanya also teaches it some. We don't have a ton of instructors that teach it, so we don't offer a ton of sections, but we've been able to meet the demand fine. Most of the times, students can't get it unless they're seniors. And this has become a complaint for many students because they are realizing that they need it before they apply to these professional schools. And then they're having to wiggle it into their schedule their senior year. And it's really a sophomore level class. It's not a high level class at all. So that's not good for the student, and it's not good for the faculty member either, because they feel like they can't make it challenging enough for the student. You know, it's a bunch of seniors in a sophomore level class. It's not that difficult. So there is has been a thought to, well, should we add this to the curriculum? Do we need to look at what professional schools require and add it into the pre-professional curriculum? I don't know where that ultimately needs to lead us. I just know it's a problem. Yes, Ralph.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Amelia. I also, as part of my, because I knew you had mentioned that as well as being one of the issues, you know, and I had heard that also from Sarah and Rachel. I did meet with Denise Anderson, and I brought that issue up, and she looked into that. Some of her comments on that topic were, one, and I think there's some funding issues here too. I think that somebody was funding our department to pay for Karen's position to teach that because there was a need on campus. It sounds like that funding may be going away. She said that biology may take over this, but it sounds like biology is not interested in doing that. So she said, one, there may be there was financial gain for us to do this, but she said maybe there's the nice image of public health doing this service for the university out of our budget. That could potentially be a benefit. Even though we don't get paid, we're serving a need.
I do think that's been Ron's take on it, is that I feel like it came from higher above that we needed to offer this to the university.
And they did say that if we don't want to do it, we didn't have to, but she said it might look good. She goes, and do we really, I think Rachel brought this up, do we want something like PRTM or biology to be teaching this, or would we rather be doing it? And I think that question came up, is this a public health issue that we want ownership of? Or do we just want to get rid of it? I think Rachel even said, if we don't want it, you know, we could get rid of it, but there's potential cons.
Right, because our students often need it.
Right, because we kind of need it as well. But the question was, do we meet everybody on campus's needs, just our needs, et cetera? And I think that's where the idea of maybe we can get the certificate revenue, you know, by doing that. Also, what was the other thing that came up? Oh, it also came up that, and you just said this too, is the question became, is this really needed? And where does that come from? And I think it was coming out of the advising office, Carolyn Williams, because, you know, students are also told they need EPI. They're told they need other classes as well. But she said, maybe there's this trend over in that office of advising saying, hey, this is a good course to have. And maybe that voice has got loud. And maybe, as you said, is this something that they necessarily have to have? Do we have to meet that need? Maybe epidemiology is something they have to have. Maybe a public health certificate, something they have to have. We just haven't advocated as much for that.
Yeah, I think it would be good to do a little research on that, because we had veterinarian students for the first time, or pre-vet students, a lot of them in the spring who started taking it. And that kind of came out of nowhere.
And I know, as the director of our certificate program undergrad, I deal with a lot of emails. I think I spent almost an entire day yesterday, and probably not as much as Amelia deals with, but I get a lot of emails saying, I have to have these EPI course. I have to have 2.
Ralph, we lost you completely. All right. I'm going to move on to something that's related to this discussion. So I'm going to jump down now to number 10 here on our From This Summer list. So Amelia and I and a few others have had some conversation with Ron about a cross-college undergraduate certificate program for the students that are involved in the Arthrex program. So I checked in with Denise about this, and because I knew from Ralph from previous discussions that that our college did not want any additional or new undergraduate certificates, and that was a big issue. But she said this is definitely something that those higher up at the university want to happen. So this is definitely something that's going to be moving forward. So Ron has been working on putting together or working with others about a proposed list of classes that students would take for this certificate. There are 3 health classes that they can choose from for this certificate. That includes medical terminology. It also includes healthcare systems and epidemiology. So what this means is that there's an even greater demand coming for medical terminology. And it also means that we have to find additional seats for students from across campus in the healthcare systems course and the epidemiology course. So I think with all of that being said, medical terminology is likely not going away. Whether someone takes it over or not, I think that's outside of the purview of this committee. I also think financial matters related to whether or not that's taught, that course is taught, is outside of the purview of this committee as well. That is something that administrators have to deal with. I would encourage everybody on the curriculum committee to consider all the things that we talk about in terms from the perspective of curriculum and the degrees that we offer in the department. When it comes to financing something or having enough people to teach it, those are related issues that the department, more broadly speaking, needs to address or needs to be concerned with. So Ralph, you froze up, we lost you for a minute, and then what I did was I jumped down to number 10 here, talking about a different certificate that is going to be proposed. I don't know where that's going to originate, but I just know that there are going to be as many as 3 health classes that are options for these Arthrex students. And that was more of an informational thing to bring to the committee at this point. But it ties back into this conversation about medical terminology, which is already in high demand, and that would make it even in greater demand.
And maybe a quick comment on that is I saw the brief bullet of that. I think it's a great idea when it helps, us, still teach those courses. I think it helps us have this image as we are serving healthcare on campus, that kind of topic. My only thought on that is I know in speaking again with Denise and Ron and the university, there was, I've also talked about creating new certificate programs. I proposed a health and fitness one about 2 years ago, and they shot that down saying there's going to be no new undergraduate certificates unless there's a large demand for some reason.
Yeah.
So whoever is going to try to push the new certificate program through, which just off the top of my head sounds like a good idea, there may be issues we run into where it would really have to be justified as having a need on campus, because I think the culture in the past was a lot of certificates that were made, nobody was graduating from them. There were somewhere like 300 students went through the certificate, got revenue, and 2 people graduated. So what was happening is people were just throwing classes into certificates and nobody was completing the certificate. Yeah. So I think if we do go forward, that would need to be something that's really justified. But I mean, off my head, I think it could be a good idea, for the different issues.
I think, and again, I don't know where that will be housed. I don't know where it's going to originate. I do know from talking with Denise that this is a go because it's coming from the provost level. That is what I was told, and I just verified that with her. And so I think these issues we need to outline as, reminders or concerns about this moving forward. But again, we can deal with whether or not something makes sense in terms of fitting within a certificate program, should be added to, taken away from an existing program we have, et cetera. But you know, the follow through on having someone in place to manage a certificate, the follow through on having someone in place to be able to teach it, and the way in which that class is financed is that's not up to us.
Well, if there's anything I can do is, you know, given all that I do with our current certificate, I'd be willing to, you know, help however, if you need somebody to help with that. And I hear you on the financing and the, how do we get it to teach, you know? I think Amelia probably would agree with the same thing. She's the one that deals with who's teaching these probably most.
All right, so basically what that means is that we're going to be talking about this more definitely over this fall semester, and potentially fairly often this year as these things unfold and this other certificate moves forward and that sort of thing. So anything else before we move on from that? Kristen's with us. How are you doing, Kristen? Good. I am
muted. Sorry. Good.
There you go. Kristen, I'm recording this, so I'll share the recording at the end, and then you can catch up on anything that you missed.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Were we ready to move on? I think somebody was about to say something.
No, I can bring up the other issue later on that regarding online courses and certificates. There's been some ADA issues that have come up recently. I actually have a student this semester for the first time that is hearing impaired. So my syllabi, my Canvas course, all that stuff needs to be like, you know, reader accessible. And I know we've kind of talked about that in the past. And at one point, Ron had asked me to make a lot of our certificate courses all ADA compliant.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that in the future.
Yeah, and I think that comes up under point 13.
Okay, excellent. Move forward.
It's kind of a catch-all. All right, so the next item is curriculum proposal for the deletion of 4,000 prerequisite attribute issues. Amelia, I'll let you say something about that.
Okay, let me think for just a minute. This was instructor consent, I believe. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Okay. So with Health 4000, I think we were having a problem because when students registered for these courses, they had to get instructor consent or overrides to get into the course. Yeah. And we don't want faculty members to have to do that each time a student is trying to enroll. You know, I think Tanya might have 25 students in her class. Yeah. So that's a burden. So we wanted to take that attribute off so it didn't say instructor consent. That attribute, it's kind of complicated too, because actually what happened was, I believe the attribute was there, so it says instructor consent, but they don't necessarily have to have it. So there were a lot of emails being written to instructors wanting the consent, but they didn't really need it. That attribute gives Jennifer and Linda permission, or it cues them to put the restriction on the class in IROR. And so if we take the attribute off, then they won't put the restriction on there and students will be fine to get in. So I think over time, the attribute was left on there. We were not necessarily putting the restriction on there, correct. So students could get in, they saw that they needed consent. It was just very confusing. And so we were proposing that we remove the attribute so that there's no confusion. They don't need instructor consent or overrides or anything to get in the class. They register like normal.
So I can speak from the graduate university committee perspective. These things come through at every meeting, and it's almost a hands down, okay, anybody have any objection to this? And it's almost automatic that it goes through because everybody understands what a headache this is for staff in the department or for individual instructors that have to do all this extra work. I don't know how they feel about this at the university undergrad committee level, but I would imagine that it's the same.
Okay.
So I don't see this being a problem at all.
And just to back up, Health 4000 is that special topics course.
Mhm.
So oftentimes it is a different instructor
Yes.
teaching it each semester.
And then they're running into it for the first time and they're going, why do I have to do all this? Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
It also list junior standing. Are you going to be looking at that as well? Because my guess is some of those inquiries were really sophomores looking to get into it. That's why I put the screenshot of what the actual prereqs in the catalog that are listed are. So it's junior standing.
For this particular course?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
For 4,000 level or just that course?
It's that course. If you open the screenshot, it says prereq is junior standing and consent of instructor. So I know we were talking about consent of instructor, but just want to throw that out. If you're putting a change through, do you also want to consider the junior standing piece? So, and again, I don't care, but since you're.
I don't know if that's something that needs to be talked about. Would
Do we
Health
want-
4000 be more of a junior senior course?
Do we want freshmen jumping into 4,000 level of independent or special topics courses without
No,
any checks?
I don't think so, but I don't know if that's something that normally is discussed in curriculum or not.
it certainly can be. To me, it makes sense that you've got the junior restriction on there. If we did anything, I could see moving it back to sophomore, but not freshman. But I mean, I don't remember this ever being an issue that the junior status is on there.
What about like population health, Amelia? Is that class just open? Could a freshman take like that, a 4,000 level class, or they have some level of prereq, or is there ever a grade prereq or a class prereq?
When I taught population health, it was mostly seniors with a sprinkling.
But did they have to have like determinants first, or was it
I think it
something like-
depends on the class.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't have any prereqs. If they have a prereq, it's usually 2020, 2980, 2400. So, I mean, if they're freshmen who have already gotten those classes, then they're good to go. They could register for it.
I mean, I would be more inclined to keep it because I think it makes more sense to have the older status in those special topics classes, unless this would be a question for Kristen, unless you see lots of sophomores where they're like, well, I need a class because I've completed my health requirements.
But do we want a 4,000 level instructor getting a bunch of, hi, I need prereqs and, you know?
Oh,
Well,
Well-
if they're that far ahead that they need the 4,000 level courses, they're going to have junior standing with advanced credit. So
okay.
you're going to get some students who are technical sophomores, but have the junior standing and can get in. So
Then I
Okay.
think we could leave it unless anybody has a strong objection to that.
I'm trying to think of a special case where this might really be a legitimate request by a sophomore, and it could be someone who uses this course and they're counting it as a domain course because they're pre-prof. But like Kristen just pointed out, and again, I'm so glad we have people like you that understand this at such a deep level, and that, you know, that they're going to have junior standing anyway, probably, right? So, but it's a really great point that you bring that up, that it says instructor consent and junior status. So, I mean, at this point, I feel like the junior status is not an issue, but we just need to deal with this instructor consent issue as it originally came up. But I appreciate the thoroughness. This is good work we're doing.
Trying to get it both done if you needed it instead of
Yes,
doing it
ma'am.
twice.
Awesome. All right, any more discussion on that? Keep rolling here. So curriculum proposal to remove health 8110, prereq for health 8900. And let me just, so 8900 is selected topics, and the 8110 course is, that is our healthcare delivery system course. I thought that's what it was. I just wanted to make sure before I said it. So there's really no need for that prerequisite to be there. Again, this is something we've talked about before. So it's pretty straightforward. And by the way, you know, you see that I'm just adding these follow-ups that Joel and Tracy will do this. Tracy has this down so it's so easy. And we can do a lot of this literally in one sitting, she and I. So these things are not problematic at all. So we're going to have a bundle of things that go through probably early on the semester, and we can, so out of these 13 things, you know, it seems like we've got a pretty daunting year ahead of us academically in curriculum, but a lot of this stuff is just going to quickly check off within a few months time period. All right, so any questions about that one?
Nope.
All right, so we've got another one that is another curriculum proposal to remove Math 2060 and 4030 or consent of instructor, all that prerequisite for Health 8310. And Health 8310 is our quantitative analysis 1 course. It's the first, it's what we call Quant 1. And I don't remember off the top of my head the reason why we needed to remove this. Does anyone else remember? But I know that this is coming from previous discussions in the spring. I'm just going to look quickly in the minutes
Jennifer,
here.
I'm going to have to look through my notes. I think this might have been started a couple of years ago with a problem that Ron had with a BDSI student, but I'm going to need to look at my emails.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, so it could be that that is such a specific prerequisite, and the BDSI students probably already had it, but it was just you know, an irritation to try to figure out what course that's matching up to or something. So yeah, let's do this. I'm going to say that Joel and Tracy will send a proposal through after further investigation on rationale, because we have to state a sound and reasonable rationale for why anything we send through Curriculog, obviously. And so we'll just be planning on doing that, but we just need to check a few details first. Fair enough?
sounds good.
All right. Restrictions for independent studies, instructor consent for courses, so faculty can approve students getting in rather than anyone being able to register. Ralph, you're shaking your head. Ralph or Amelia?
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
I
This
mean, I
was
can see
brought,
somebody saying, I'm doing an independent study with one student, you know, whether it be grad or undergrad, and I'd hate for people to jump in there. I don't know the rationale for letting them just jump into an independent study. Amelia?
Yeah, I think this came up. I don't know that we've had it on there. I don't know the history behind it necessarily, but Sarah noticed that we didn't have instructor consent on independent studies, and she was, I think, fearful that people would jump in people's classes when they shouldn't be. So,
And I think I've seen independent studies in the past when I review like our classes that have 0 set as the cap. So I think one of our procedures in the past were independent studies were capped at 0 students. And then faculty would go provide overrides, you know, after they met with the independent study student. So if we're doing that, you know, I would see putting some sort of back with, you know, whatever the best process is there.
yeah.
Okay, so we have this string of take stuff away, and this one is an addition.
Yeah.
So that'll
Mhm.
that'll mix our work up a little bit. So Tracy and I won't be totally bored as we're doing it. All right, any further discussion about that one? Okay, so I think pretty much everybody remembers me sharing some information from Donna Barrett over the summer. We were concerned with the way that the domain areas were going to show up as being completed in degree works, since we have made the change to go to 3 out of 4 domain areas, meaning that you can double dip in one domain, but you still have to have 4 courses total. And of course, we have a list of courses that would fall under the 4 domains that we have categorized those courses in. And those of you who viewed the video that I shared of the meeting with Donna Barrett and I and a few others, basically, it was clear to me that Donna did the best that she could to address all the issues that we brought to her. She tried 3 or 4 different ways to make the changes in the system. So this is a programming issue to make sure that as students are taking these courses, you've got an interface that's as easy as possible to understand when you're looking at it, in terms of what courses do I need to take and which ones have I completed. And basically, she gave 3 or 4 different options, and the one that she was recommending to us, we all pretty much hands down agreed that this is the best we can do. There could be some improvement on this if the system had the capacity, but if you want to add anything, those of you that were part of that discussion, if you want to add anything, you can do that here. But before we do that, I just want to say that what I would like to do is to have her join us for one of our faculty meetings before advising, immediately before advising. Kristen, what will be the date that we start advising?
Oh, it's early November. Let me look it up real quick, but I think it's right after election day.
Okay.
So November 4th. Let me look it up real quick.
Okay. So I just need to know that so I can try to get her on our agenda. Another option would be that I can meet with her again. She could do a walkthrough as she did before, and I could just share that with all of the faculty members to view, just as, you know, courtesy of the curriculum committee, to make sure that everybody will be as close to advising as possible. They'll be up to speed on what it's going to look like and how we handle these domain issues. And we also, Amelia talked about putting together some sort of fact sheet about this, you know, or sort of reference that would go along with that tutorial that she could do by video. But I don't see this as being a major issue. It's just a matter of us communicating back to the faculty. You know, we've been, a couple of years now into this 3 out of 4 domains change, but now the system is finally catching up with how that's handled, and it's just educating all of us about what it's going to look like and what to expect and that sort of thing.
And Joel, I had 2 students. I've been dealing with this last week too. I have 2 students doing curriculum changes and or the different year change, etc. But I thought, from what I saw in there, doing the what if statement from 2018 catalog to 2020, it made pretty clear sense to me, the new updates she made. Everything looked like it made sense on how that works. And I agree that maybe a little basic tutorial for our department on, here's how the 3 of 4 domains works. But I thought the way she programmed it in DegreeWorks, it comes across pretty clear. The only little issue I wanted to make, and maybe this is something Amelia can answer, I think she has one of the domains listed wrong. I think it's something like research skills, and she has it listed as research and skills domain. And I think it's really a research skills domain. I'm not sure what that 4th domain is. Is it research skills or research and
I think it was
skills
and.
in general?
I believe it was
I thought
and.
it was and, but now you've got me questioning it.
Because I think I remember when we talked about Kathleen's course, and she has a very much of a skill-based course, and that's in there. But somehow I remember there was some discussion that, well, they're learning how to do a little bit, something kind of like research, but that was just something I thought is it really research and just health skills, or was it, they have research skills, system skills, population skills. And I just happened to see that, and I wasn't sure if that was a typo but I thought I'd get your brain going on that one. I wasn't sure.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
I'm looking
Yeah,
at it
I'd
right
have
We
to
have
look
to
back.
discuss that, but that was just something that popped out at me when I took a fresh look at the DegreeWorks. Everything flowed well with the classes, and I was like, is it research skills or research and skills? Not probably.
There is an and, guys. There is an
And?
and. It's research and skills.
I thought
Okay.
so.
Yeah, so November 3rd is the first day, or November 4th, sorry, November 3rd I have on the brain for another reason. November 4th is the first day of registration. So the 3rd and the 2nd is Clemson's fall break. So probably people are going to be advising starting mid-October. So if you want to tie to a faculty meeting, that's last one in September probably would be the best timing
Okay.
to get it to them before they go into advising.
All right. So here we go, research and skills.
Got it. Okay. It just seemed like kind of vague. What kind of skills? I was maybe nitpicking some other documents.
Yep.
I came across them. It's like health skills or assessment skills, maybe, or whatever. But fine. I like DegreeWorks. It seems to flow well.
All right. I'm going to move on to number 8 here. This is really more informational. So this comes from a request, I guess from Kathleen mainly. She had a student who was a little bit, how do I say it?
Forward.
Forward. Let me back up. So with the accelerated degree programs, and that's BS to MD, BS to DMD, BS to PharmD, BS to DPT, so Doctor of Physical Therapy, and probably soon to come, but not official yet, BS to OT. I already have that listed in here. Those accelerated routes, there's some concern that students who absolutely 100% want a health science degree from Clemson as part of that accelerated program, that's what they get, and they don't get the professional studies degree. Is that what it's called, Kristen? Professional studies? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
And one student was very adamant about that over the summer, and Kathleen was helping her with it, and she didn't give Kathleen a lot of time from what I understand, and the student ended up getting in touch with Ron, and Ron got involved and so on. So So from Ron's perspective, everything's in place. You just go to the website and it's all there and you do it. But there is clearly an issue. There's clearly some confusion about how this can work exactly. So long story short, without going into too many other details, Kathleen and I spoke at length about this. Kathleen and Kristen spoke after that. And so, Kristen, correct me if I say anything wrong here. So Kathleen and Kristen is really Kristen doing the heavy lifting here, is going to help put together a more defined plan for how to best accomplish getting a health science degree when you're in one of these 5 accelerated pathways. I don't know if that's still a 100% guarantee, but we're basically, the way that I'm understanding it is that we're going to be a step closer to a more defined process.
Yes, and Kathleen and I have actually gotten to a final draft situation with all of them except the OT, because of course that isn't approved yet. And so what we can do is submit that to this group to take a look at and maybe talk at the next curriculum meeting, yay or nay. Always great to have other sets of eyes on it, but I can just respond. Jennifer, I think you sent the minutes. I can respond to that email and attach those. Or Joel, if you want me to give them to you to help distribute to the group for our next
That'd be fun.
meeting, let me know.
Yep.
But yeah,
Yep.
And I think it's going to be helpful to everyone. And just to clarify, all of the coursework, and you'll see this, that we've put into the senior year is health science related. So in that sense, Kathleen and I were trying to design something, or elective, where we really are controlling that. So if a student leaves here with only health science courses to complete, we feel very confident that, you know, if the faculty has reviewed this information, that they feel comfortable saying, sure, you know, these health courses are going to be equivalent to what you would get in a first year of a professional health program such as medical school or DMD.
Bless your hearts.
Any questions? That one's pretty straightforward. So again, we'll be talking about that more. All right. I also just got a request from Qua to delete all of the prereqs for the health policy course. So a little background on this: the Health 8100 is a course that was created some time back, and it was tied to the joint our department and MBA program in the past. But it's an elective course for our doctoral and even master's students now. And there's a list of 6 MBA classes, 4 of which you have to have as a prerequisite to get into this course, which is crazy. But I guess at one point in time, it made sense that you would have taken those in order before you took health policy as part of that concentration track within the MBA. I'm assuming that's where that came from. So essentially, Qua wants to get rid of those prerequisites. And this will be another proposal that Tracy and I will send through. And just a heads up to the rest of the committee, I will also circle back with Qua to make sure that even though we're removing these 6 and we don't want to require those, does he want to replace them with any other prerequisites for whatever reason? I don't know if an consent of instructor would be appropriate for this or not, but this is more informational, and that's really all I have to say about that particular item. Are there any questions about it? So the reason this came up is that he's teaching it in the fall, and you know, this was just, it's something that I think that now that we've got more quantitative faculty on staff and he can do things that that he has the skill set for to expand our offerings, like health policy. I think, you know, this is why we're running into that now, because it hasn't really been offered in a while. I know this course used to be offered in the past, but it's been a little while. All right. Okay, so item number 10, I've already touched on that one. Basically there, what I'm going to say is to be continued. And this is where the dun dun dun, that's where that music comes in, right? Anything else about that? Becky Tugman had shared this summer some alumni feedback, and I wasn't totally clear on what she was looking for. Amelia and I checked in with her over the summer when this came to us, or shortly after it came to us, and I knew they were working on some CEF stuff, and we wanted to see, is this something we need to deal with now or not? And she said it could wait. So I will circle back with Becky and get some more details on this. But from looking back at that communication with her as part of the CEF, the ongoing CEF activities that they're working on, documenting learning objectives and getting things squared away with that. There was some feedback going all the way back to at least 2017 from students as they leave our program, and some of the suggestions or concerns or whatever feedback that they gave us could be things that we could talk about that are curricular in nature. So this is I just need to clarify with her, is there something in particular that we need to prioritize here? Or do I just need to circulate this as a general piece of feedback? And, you know, there weren't a lot of students with feedback on the Excel file that she shared with me. So I also feel like we need to be careful that we don't spend a lot of time in curriculum dealing with an issue that one student that's no longer here brought up. So I'm not diminishing the feedback from students who have exited our program. That's the whole purpose, is we want to hear back from them and we want to do things better. But, you know, one student, one feedback or one opinion, you know, we don't want to get bogged down in something like that if it's not really an urgent matter, so to speak. So this was also more information, so it's also going to be continued.
You know, I think that came up from Becky when she was talking about CEF issues, like how do we learn from in our classes and make updates to courses? How do we learn from, you know, alumni and make updates to the program? And I think she was trying to come up with a way to say we do that. And I think you said it very well, Joe.
Good, because I don't really know what I'm talking about. So
Yeah, I don't think there's much.
I faked my way through that one.
More of a, hey, look, we are taking feedback from places, making changes to curriculum and programming. We're not just stagnant. Yeah. Well, we certainly want to look through those. And after I check in with her and get some more clarification, then I'll share that with all of you before the next meeting. So Amelia over the summer also brought to my attention is more of a question, I think, right, Amelia? With CEF accreditation and just other things that are going on, do we need to look at standardizing student learning objectives and outcomes for our health courses? Amelia, what do you want to say about that?
Honestly, I can't remember which course necessarily, or how. Do you remember, Ralph?
Yeah, I think this was something, and I see Debbie unmuted. It was something where we had gone in and looked at some of the core courses, and the committee had come up with standard, here are basic student learner outcomes that would be in our basic courses, and then faculty could add additional ones. I think what we were trying to do is I brought this up saying I couldn't find that list.
Yes.
And so if we could track down what were the basic, like for 2020, what were the basic outcomes for 2030, et cetera. And I have some emails. I think Jennifer looked into that. And the comment was, let's see if we remember in curriculum, if we can find those.
Well, and also
can look
I
into
remember,
that. If you want me to, Amelia, I can look into my minutes from all
Okay.
those meetings.
yeah, that'd be great because I remember at some point while I was here, you all asked me to come to a meeting because I was teaching Health 2400 and went through all those learning objectives. And then I took what curriculum decided they should be and put them in my syllabus.
This goes back to Lee and Angie. So there may be a reason why it's hard for Jennifer to find and stuff, but let me see when I'm next to my office what I can find, because I think I wrote them all down for the core courses.
Okay, yeah, great.
And honestly, I think I put them in my syllabus, but I don't want to say that what's in my syllabus is what was agreed upon. I might have had something missing, in there.
I think you were right, Ralph, though. I think we decided that there were a set 3 to 5, and then faculty could add some more.
Yeah, I think we actually picked that, you guys, because I was invited too for a couple of those. I think it was like, let's have 3 to 5 core outcomes that everybody would have. If you're a new faculty member, you at least got to do those 3 to 5, and then you want to add things to it, you could.
I'll do some research.
Thank you. And I can put those into our departmental teaching page
Okay.
too.
Good idea.
Slot for that.
Now, we don't have them beyond the core courses, Amelia. Is there an interest or a concern that way?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So
I
this
think for
is,
SEEF reasons, it was just do our core courses. What are the core things we teach? And then I think a question came up as well, what if all of a sudden new faculty are coming in and are we really consistently teaching, basic systems, organizational systems, et cetera. So I think you're fine, Debbie. If you can find those, that'd be great. And in that Department of Public Health Science teaching resource page, there's already a slot for them, but it's like they're all blank right now.
Okay.
And I think even mine is incorrect. It says like draft, but it showcased that, hey, for a new faculty member, they could go there when they're putting their syllabi together and go, oh, here's what I need to teach at least, I thought that would help Amelia out as we get new faculty or faculty go, what do I have to teach? You just push them there.
all right. So we have an open ender here. If any of you have things that we should note here that have to do with COVID or teaching online or just, dealing with the world that we live in now, that's where this one goes.
And I know because I commented on this before, I've been getting all these wonderful emails that come our way, from multiple documents. One thing I've been trying to do for the last couple of months is anytime something came my way, I tried to put that again into that checklist in the Canvas page. So things like COVID rules, what needs to be in the syllabus, I've tried to organize those. I don't think this was something that was mandatory, but I know now that we're online more, I don't know if we want to talk about, are there certain, well, I think the other little issue would be is the, like I know I have a hearing impaired student. So I did go and load a new syllabus template that's ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act formatted. It has the tables the right way, the headers are the right way so that readers read them fine. I don't know if that's necessarily COVID-19, but with so many online courses, I've been trying to put resources in there. But I know one time a while ago, Ron's like, can you kind of get courses, we just had a couple online courses. He's like, let's see if we can get those like ADA compliant. And with so many people going to videos nowadays, as an FYI, in the past, it used to be this wink, wink, if somebody has a video or, technically it should have closed captioning. Now that everybody's teaching online, technically we should all have closed captioning. That's one of the benefits of Zoom. It comes with that. So I don't know, this is a random topic, but do we want to maybe in the future visit some things about what would be standards for our online courses? Is that something we want to do? I don't want to burden our faculty because we're in the middle of, holy heck. I know even Clemson Online talks a lot about, for the meetings I go to, they talk about how there's things we should be doing at the department level, but the provost has told them they're not allowed to be the online police. So there's things they help us with, but they can't tell us to do certain things. But they hope that we have people in the department that are trying to make effective online education. But they don't want to force anybody to have to say on top of teaching, to try to meet these ultimate standards.
Ralph, some of these things might be good for the undergraduate meetings that I talked about. Like some of these topics I think would be great for those meetings coming up. I mean, for anybody who's teaching online.
We might get some good feedback from our lecturers because they're probably more engaged in that teaching and the online stuff. But I don't know if some point on a broader level, we want to come up with something super simple. Like I've tried to do the syllabus template. It's maybe not ready for this semester, but in the future, if people just take that syllabus template and copy paste, and they follow those directions, how to do the accessibility check that I gave, in Word, you can do an accessibility check, which tells you whether or not somebody with a reader, is going to have a problem,
I tried to do that and I must have an old Word version because I couldn't
You do have to convert it and save it as the DOCX version.
Oh.
So if you go into save, you can save it as a Word doc. But if you go to the version that's DOCX, then it'll work.
Okay.
I ran into the same issue. I've been working with Michelle Tootin on that. And I added a video on the basics of making Word documents compliant. I think I added that this morning when I came across it. I think it's too much force on people immediately, but something to think about.
Ralph, can I add you as our leader on
I can go ahead and
big picture?
I can work with that since I'm doing it already with the student that I'm dealing with. I think it's my first or second time I've had a student with these issues. I have somebody that's going to be sitting in on all my meetings doing closed captioning or real-time typing of my lectures and discussion sessions, and which is nice because I don't have to get all my transcripts immediately fixed and closed captioning immediately added. A skill set.
All right, anything else? How many people think we will definitely be back face-to-face on campus? Kristen?
Really?
We'll try it. And then we can say we tried.
I think that's it. We're going to try, but yeah. Has anybody been downtown Clemson this week?
It's a long time until September 21st.
And the students only got here a week ago, remember? It takes about 2 weeks for that stuff to kick in.
Yeah.
And this is the week.
That's one of the things that was a little bit curious about the UNC Chapel Hill issue is that they were there for a week, but I guess, you have COVID is in process of, incubating. And so you have however many people are incubating popping up in that week. But
and I heard that North Carolina was testing everybody too. We're only testing people that live on campus or work on campus.
No, we are testing off campus.
Randomly.
Random, but the students have already figured out that if they come in for testing, there's potential to be shut down. That was what I learned in my last meeting. So they've been trying to get some of the students that have moved in off campus to come in, and they're refusing to do it because they're afraid that the percent positive might shut things down. And so now the university is trying to figure out how to deal with that.
Measure the sewer water in Clemson City of.
No doubt.
That'll be the first thing to go up.
Wow.
I haven't bought my fall outfit yet. You know, I'm hoping that I can save some money this year. And the parking pass too. I like that $3 a day versus 100 and whatever dollars we pay for parking.
Hey, Joel, do you mind after the meeting if Kristen and I stay on? If you
Sure.
like quit recording and then,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So let me, anything else before we wrap up here? Ja, you made it all the way through.
Any tasks you want us to work on, Joel, for next time, or will you send us information?
Ralph, if you can just be thinking about these bigger picture issues, ADA in particular, ADA compliance with videos and being online, and just other related things. Amelia is going to be
Summarize those
discussing,
certificate issues too.
yeah, she's going to be discussing this with the lecturers. Let's see. So Debbie is going to look back at her notes, even though she's still serving this committee for free of charge. We appreciate your dedication to us. She's going to
You
look
can
back.
put my name beside that if you want, but I'll be on that as soon as I can.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Debbie.
All right. I think all the other ones pretty much have someone assigned to them. So, yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape here. So how's that for going through all this stuff in one meeting in almost an hour?
Great job, Joel.
Not too bad, huh? All
Thank
right.
you, my captain, oh captain.
Hey, if you want to put me up at the end of the year for that facilitator award, maybe I'd have a shot at it. No, I don't think there's one for that. It's just called doing your job, right?
Doing it well.
All right. So thank you, everybody. Lots of stuff going on, lot to do, and an unusual time to do it. But just like everything else, we'll get through it.
Mhm.
All right. So
Thank you.
me, now that I've stopped recording, let me stop my share.
Gonna say, I think you might need to make Amelia or I host before you leave.
Yes, I do. I just got to remember where that is. Participate.
Sorry.
All right, we'll see y'all later.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody
Thank you,
else.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
It looks like I can screen share.
Yeah.
Well, but if Joel wants, is
Oh,
Joel staying?
never mind.
or is he-
He's not. Never mind. I can't. It wouldn't let me.
I mean, if Joel wants, I'm sure he doesn't want to hang on just for us.
No. And if it doesn't work,
Click on the participants, Joel. Can you click on that?
Yeah, that's where I was looking.
And then if you hover over like my name or Amelia, do the more. Oh, wait, no. Oh, that's because I'm not the host.
Make
But if you
host.
hover over my name, do you see a drop down where you can make one of us host?
Yeah, and I think I just picked
Okay.
Amelia.
Yep.
Amelia Klingscales is the host now.
okay.
All right, pass the baton off.
Thank you.
Bye, Joel.
Take care.
Bye.